Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today we have another missing person mystery to discuss from the state of Washington. Hope you enjoy the video. On July 20th, 2020, 61-year-old Shirley Baumann took a camping and hiking trip on Quartz Creek Trail outside of North Bend, Washington. She was a local from the area and a regular on the trails. Shirley would make it at least 2 to 2.5 miles up the trail, set up camp, and then disappear. Shirley's camping gear and campsite were found, but no other trace of her was ever recovered. This is the missing person mystery of Shirley Baumann. Shirley was dropped off at Quartz Creek Trailhead by her son on July 20th, 2020, to hike and camp with a return date of July 22nd. Shirley planned on hiking to Lake Blethen during her stay. She was from North Bend, Washington, and was a beloved part of the community. From a post her daughter wrote on the Living Snoqualmie website, she stated, "People saw Shirley every day in North Bend, tending to the flowers at Ace Hardware, riding her bike, or walking the Snoqualmie Valley Trail. Shirley loved to help the homeless community, buying them sleeping bags, ground mats, and even tents. Shirley is missed by many." While information on her online is not abundant, I was able to gather that she sounded like a very pleasant woman who is loved by her friends and family. She was approximately 5'4", 145 pounds, had hazel eyes, and blonde hair. The Quartz Creek Trail is about 10 miles outside of North Bend. While the area has many popular trails, some extremely popular in the case of Mount Si and Little Si, Quartz Creek is relatively quiet in comparison. The trail starts about 9 miles down a well-paved Forest Service road. There are many other trails along the way and a few day-use campsites. The Quartz Creek Trail is at the very end of this road and is the last stop. After Shirley did not return to be picked up, the search and rescue effort began the next day on July 23rd. The search incorporated dogs, drones, helicopters, and boots on the ground. Shirley's campsite was found roughly 2 miles into the hike right as the trail begins to switch back up the mountain. Dogs did briefly catch her scent during the search, but did not recover anything. There are a handful of social media posts online regarding Shirley and her disappearance, a few of them suspecting foul play, while others just hoping she's found and brought home safely. Since cases like these generally do not get national attention or become high profile, local reports and social media are the only places to gather information. Generally, when a case is not solved, the county sheriff's office does not release any information, making it hard to get specific details on the search effort. To give you guys a better idea of this area, I went to North Bend and hiked the Quartz Creek Trail. North Bend is a small town with lots of charm. You can see the popular Tweed's Cafe along with many other sites and fan memorabilia from the popular show Twin Peaks. North Bend also sits in the shadow of the majestic Mount Si. Hey guys, we made it to the Quartz Creek Trailhead, and this is the last spot that Shirley was seen, dead or alive, that we know of. It is the spot where her son dropped her off to go on her hiking and camping trip July 20th, 2020. The trailhead itself is outside of cellular service and feels very remote. The trail is wide and well maintained with gravel. It appears to be a logging road and can easily accommodate motorized vehicles. reports say that Shirley was an experienced hiker, so I assume that she took this trail at least a few times before she decided to camp on it. So she was probably familiar with this trail, especially as a resident of North Bend. This trail is just right outside of that town. So she had probably hiked it quite a bit. Despite being so well maintained and well marked, on either side of you there is heavy, dense forest that would be extremely to get lost and or hurt in. It did seem a bit creepy at times, and there were moments when it felt way too quiet for being in the middle of the wilderness. Unfortunately, while on this trail, at the first spot that looked like it could accommodate camping, and possibly where Shirley did set up her camp, I had a frightening experience that ended my hike early. So it looks like there's a little maintenance shed for trail maintenance, I'm assuming, and a pretty flat area. So this is one possible area that she could have set up camp. And it sounds like there's a tree creaking behind me. And in front of me. Okay, and possibly a rock just thrown at me. Hello? Okay. I think that's my sign to get out of here, you guys. Okay. To give you guys a bit more context about what happened there, while I was searching an area that looked like it could have potentially been where Shirley set up her campsite, I first hear a rock clack and then began to hear what sounded like trees creaking behind me. This, of course, is totally normal, as trees can creak in the wind, and if you listen to the video, it also sounds like it could be caused by a woodpecker. I then heard trees creaking in front of me and another rock fall. These still can be explained, as I've experienced rocks falling on hikes due to gravity, wild animals, other hikers, etc. However, rocks continued to either fall or be thrown at me from nearby trees, both in front of me and off to my right. This is when I mentioned in the video that a rock was possibly thrown at me. The closest rock lands soon after I say that and can be clearly heard on the video. At that point, I felt like the pattern the rocks were falling or being thrown at did not seem natural and did not sound like they were falling together. There were one or two rocks after that, and I decided it was not safe and I should probably leave. The rocks did sound like they were a decent size, and at that point, I went back down the trail. While I'm not proud to be spooked out of the woods, and this decision did majorly cut my hike short and prevent me from gathering as much info as I intended, it seemed like the smart move to leave, being that I was by myself miles outside of cellular service, and on top of that, I was investigating an area where Shirley had gone missing in a particular spot that she could have set up her camp right before going missing. Rest assured, I do always bring multiple tools of self-defense: a satellite phone, a compass, a downloaded map of the trail, and I do my best to prepare for anything, but there's not much you can do if heavy rocks are being thrown at you. That is what I anticipated to happen next, and I could not identify where the rocks were falling or being thrown from. To put it simply, it felt super sketch. I apologize for not getting more of the trail explored, but one of our mottos at Hikes of the PMW is safety first. And for any hard-charging, courageous trail warriors in the comment section who would laugh in the face of mysterious rock activity and spooky noises, I commend your bravery. My first takeaway is that while the trail is in great condition, everything off the trail in every direction is dangerous terrain. Venturing even 25 to 50 yards off trail could end in injury or getting lost. Everything looks the same out there. One bad move could send you in the wrong direction and hopelessly lost, especially without proper navigation tools. It might be a good time also to mention that Shirley reportedly just had a flip phone on her and not a smartphone, so it is unlikely that she had a downloaded version of the map with GPS capability. My next takeaway is the trail is very remote and there is no cell phone service. Despite the trail looking so close to North Bend on the map, once you are out there and have hiked a few miles, it feels like you are in the middle of the forest, very alone and quite possibly very vulnerable. Camping out there by yourself would be quite the experience. One other thing worth mentioning, the area that begins to switch back up the mountain where Shirley had camped and where I was spooked away is private property. I'm not saying this has anything to do with anything, but does seem odd that in a national forest you can buy a big chunk of land. No other private property was close to this area, not for miles. If you are familiar with national forest land being sold to private citizens, please let us know in the comments how that sort of thing works. The first, and in my opinion, most likely explanation for Shirley's disappearance was that she became lost and or injured, then died due to exposure and lack of food and water. One example that shows you just how easy this can happen is the case of Geraldine Largay. She unfortunately became lost on the Appalachian Trail and died very close to the trail itself, only 3,000 feet or a 10-minute walk away. There was a search and rescue effort to find Geraldine, but she was only recovered after she had passed. This case shows us that just 3,000 feet away from the trail can be far enough to be lost and die in the wilderness. Another possible cause for Shirley's disappearance is foul play. After going on this trail and actually being frightened off of it, I can tell you that this area would be the perfect place to prey on victims, especially solo hikers. Unfortunately, violent crimes on trails are not as uncommon as we may like to think. In the case of Harold and Tony Henthorne, a man pushed his wife off a ledge to her death in order to claim her life insurance. Another example is Mary Cooper and Susanna Sodden, a mother and daughter who were tragically killed with a firearm while hiking. The case remains unsolved to this day. Due to the remote nature of the woods, there are less people, fewer cameras, and plenty of ways to hide evidence. I think this may give lunatics the idea that they can get away with their violent crime, and in many cases they do. It is very possible that Shirley was a victim of foul play. The search for Shirley was drawn down just 4 days after it started, on July 27, 2020. They continued to fly helicopters in the area, but the bulk of the search party was suspended. There have been no updates on this case to date. Despite Shirley being local to the area and an experienced hiker, I can vouch for the fact that out there in these woods by yourself, you can quickly feel like a fish out of water. I would like to explore this trail again and hopefully get all the way up to at least where it forks off towards Lake Blethen, and ideally all the way to Lake Blethen itself. However, I don't think I will try it again alone. In the meantime, we send our thoughts, prayers, and general good vibes to the friends and family of Shirley. Like many cases similar to this one, in a few years there might be more evidence that shows up. I would love to know which area of the switchbacks Shirley actually set up her campsite. If she managed to hike all the way to Lake Blethen, and if she ran into anyone else up there. I'd like to know what the owners of that particular land use it for and how one can purchase National Forest property. And last but not least, I'd like to find out if anyone else on this trail has ran into sketchy people or other rock-throwing shenanigans. I'm very intrigued by this trail, and after visiting it, it only deepened the mystery for me. I'm so sorry for those like Shirley who go on these hikes never to return home. This part of Washington is incredibly beautiful, but would feel absolutely daunting to be lost in. As always, if I find any relevant information, I will create a follow-up video. But as for now, that's all we have. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us, and have a great day. Well, that wraps up our video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We'd like to end by saying that Shirley and her friends and family are in our thoughts and prayers, and we hope that there is some kind of resolution someday. Otherwise, please feel free to like the video, comment, and subscribe. Have a good one.